You can work for 8 hours. If there is an employer, you have overtime. Or you can have 2 jobs if you are in a private enterprise. And that's what happens in other countries. You have people working for 14, 13 hours. So if you put in less hours, then certainly what you will harvest will not be. So, but this is an interesting part. When you look at agriculture, forestry, and fishing, now, you know, we say Uganda is a country endowed with natural resources, our fertile soils, agriculture is our key sector. But look at the hours being put in. 6.2, at national average is 6 hours. So you have 24 hours, but the guys are putting in 6 hours. That's a very serious. So we need to look at how do we educate people and ensure that more work is done. There is certainly more hours in the services sector. Next. So, in terms of social security, now the social security is very key because, as you know, we all want to work, but at the same time, we need to save for ourselves so that in those years when we are not able to work, we don't become a burden to government. And already we know, like for example, the government of Uganda spends over 100 billion annually on social assistance grants for older persons. And that's 8 and above. So if we would brought the years a little bit down to 70, it would certainly require more than $500 billion. So if you look at the national statistics at the national level, 14.5% they pay NSSF. That is about 1.45 million. So remember, we have over 10 million persons in employment. They either work for pay or profit. So here you have 14. So meaning there is a need to work in this area, expand the social security to both formal and informal sector. In fact, it is nice that now we are now having what we call a voluntary framework where even if you are in the informal sector, you can save with the NSSF. So, and it's one of the key subject area that I think will be discussed deeply. But this is, and also importantly to note is that the government of Uganda has undertaken reform. You know the RAPEX, rationalization of government agencies. So now you don't have UNRWA. UNRWA was contributing directly. So I'm very sure if we did more analysis after this RAPEX, you are likely to see a change in this data. Let's next. So, in that sector, there are some challenges. There are good work that has been done. There are areas that we need to improve on, but there are some challenges. Poor work ethics, attitude, and mindset. I think this has been talked more. We know how the private sector is grappling with some of our workers. Limited technical training. Quality is a continuous improvement, and therefore there is a need for more training of workers to ensure that they are able to be efficient. Weak structure at the local government. One of the ILO convention that we ratified, 81 on labor inspection, provides for the supervision and control authority of labor inspections to be at the center. But you know, now we decentralized because of our decentralization policy, that function at the local government. So the implementation is kind of a challenge. You can imagine you have a chief administrative officer employing a worker, and there is what we would call, in one way or another, the contract of service is not honored. And the worker goes to the labor office or labor officer to report the chief administrative officer to say, hey, madam, I've been working for this gentleman, the chief administrative officer, who happens to be your boss, and I've not been paid my money for the last 4 months. And then the labor officer must re-summon the chief administrative officer. So we need to see how to harmonize and align the structure to supervision and regulatory authority. Information deficiency, we need to give more information because, as you know, you have seen that there are more people in informal employment. That means we need to extend more work or services to informal sector. But also information is generally deficient at both at the employer's level and workers' level. Have case backlog. As you know, the labor office is a quasi-court of first instance on matters of employment. The import of that is that when there is non-conformity in the contract of service, so the first office that the worker goes or an employer is the labor office. And some of the districts have one labor officer. So this case backlog even goes to industrial court, and this also delays what you would call justice. So what is it that the ministry is doing? As I conclude, current efforts to create productive employment. We are reviewing and developing laws on employment, labor, and productivity. The employment policy is under review. The employment amendment bill was passed by Parliament. We are already reviewing the Labor Unions Act and also the Workers' Compensation Act. So the ministry is doing this to ensure that we align ourselves to both the international, regional, and then the national requirements. Strengthening the enforcement of labor standards. We now have about 209 labor officers. This is good for government because now at least every district has a labor officer, and therefore enforcement becomes easier. So there are also efforts on transport, on tools, to ensure that the labor officers are facilitated. We are supporting the national skills development agenda. We are revitalizing apprenticeship. And we have seen that apprenticeship is one of the key pathways to employment. Actually, in the pilot that we have undertaken in collaboration with International Labour Organization, the transition, natural transition, under Uganda Bureau of Statistics is about 24%, but with apprenticeship, we are now seeing results of about 70% transition, meaning that if you have an apprentice in the world of work, there are high chances that he will be employed. Then data, has been our problem. So we thank the Minister and the PS. We are now working with our partners to ensure that we have the management information system. So next time Kasumba, if you want data on workers in tourism sector, we'll be able to go on the system and give you real-time data. The ministry is also supporting, this is very key, because we deal with vulnerable and marginalized groups. We are supporting informal sector, micro, medium, and small enterprises transition. And we are doing it through different initiatives. We have special grants for disability. We have Joakari support, Grow, Youth Livelihood Funds, among others. And these initiatives bring more people into the employment bracket. Next. One of the other key areas, effort that we promote workers' rights, freedom of association and collective bargaining, and we do capacity building, regulation, and social dialogue. I've already talked about on the aspect of access to labor justice, where we have stepped up efforts on the settlement of labor complaints and disputes. We are also designing a national framework for building sustainable common user facilities. This also brings the aspect of job creation. Then continuous awareness on labor standards. And we have also a key intervention that we are working on, and that is improvement of employment services to advance access to job opportunities. Soon we are going to launch the job matching platform. There is good work which is being done under counseling and guidance, and among others. And then the last is we are working closely with our partners and ensuring that we are able to build strong partnerships and collaboration in the areas of workforce development. So I want to end here. I thank you very much.
Give Mr. Simwe, the Commissioner, another big hand clap. I was looking at those numbers and figures. It reminded me of 10 years ago when I walked into a medical facility to terminate my interest in contributing to the population of Uganda. And I thank God that that interest was terminated. But what was fascinating about that day is I drove into the facility somewhere around Bwaise, I think Maristops it was, and then an individual walked in from the nearby housing units around, obviously with his slippers. I don't know when they had last seen a decent brush and soap. And from his own story, his third wife. While I was terminating my interest in contributing to Uganda's population, he had walked into the facility complaining that his third wife was not able to deliver the fourth child. And as you were making a presentation of those figures, that came back to me to ask the question, where is Uganda's population produced? Is it a deliberate strategy that our population comes from which place? Do we have a strategy that we want our population to be produced from these places? what are the jobs being done by the people contributing the most to our population? Is that deliberate? What is the level of education of the people contributing the most to our population? Because I was looking at those figures and that's what was coming to mind. Is our population being produced deliberately or accidentally? Just people have a good drink, and then when they go to celebrate the drink, they find out they contributed to our population. Of course, also, I usually make a joke when it rains that Uganda's population will grow. And for me, the quality of the baby maybe could also explain why many enter at primary 7 in the millions and you end up with 108,000 in senior 6. If a baby was not produced deliberately by the right parents, are they going to cope with physics, chemistry, and biology? For me, those are the questions that came to mind, and it is my job to juggle people's brains to think. So, Mr. Simwe, the next time I come to your office, I'll look for the numbers and to answer the question, are these things deliberate? Or we are just observing them and there's no deliberate plan that in the next 50 years, we want our population to be coming from this particular place, and these are the strategic steps we are making to produce a very specific type of population. If I was president of Uganda, you'd have to produce proof of income to be allowed by government to have a child. Because in my opinion, we may be multiplying poverty. Thank God I'm not the president and I have no interest. Those two come in hand. Mr. Chibenge, maybe you have interest. I don't want to cause you problems. I'll just ask you to come and make a presentation. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, to a very good man, and that is an informed opinion.
At least I too have no interest. The Honourable Minister of State in charge of Labour, Industrial Relations and Productivity, who is in our midst, Honourable Judges of the Industrial Court, Honourable Members of Parliament that are here present. We have the Director of the International Labour Organization Country Office for the United Republic of Tanzania, Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, and the East African Community. Carol, you are most welcome. Our social partners, the Secretary General of COFTU, which is the Central Organization of Free Trade Unions, as well as the Secretary General, the National Organization of Trade Unions, and all your colleagues here present, the Executive Director, Federation of Uganda Employers, all our partners, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you to this third National Labour Convention and Expo, whose theme, strengthening compliance to employment law, a prerequisite for decent jobs, economic empowerment, and inclusive growth, aligns closely with the National Development Plans 3 and 4, as well as the Ministry's mandate to advance social justice, labor rights, and national development. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to extend heartfelt appreciation to S&L advocates for the collaboration with the ministry in organizing this convention. Further appreciation goes to our sponsors and stakeholders who have generously supported this convention. And in particular, I want to single out the International Labour Organization, Enable, MTN, the National Social Security Fund, NSSF, Civil Aviation Authority, Uganda Retirement Benefits Regulatory Authority, UBRA, and DFCU Bank, among others. Your commitment through financial contributions, technical input, and all logistical support have been instrumental in making this event what I think will ultimately be a resounding success. In the same vein, I wish to acknowledge the invaluable contribution from all individuals and institutions that participated in the planning, preparation, and execution of this year's Labour Convention and Expo. You have not only enriched the preparations and planned the program together with us, but also reaffirmed the value in our shared vision of promoting decent work and enhancing compliance with labor laws in Uganda. Thank you for walking this journey with us. Ladies and gentlemen, you may recall that around this time last year, the ministry organized the second annual Labour Convention and Expo as part of the activities of the Labour Week leading up to the national celebrations of the International Labour Day of 2024. It was held under the theme, Improving Access to Labour Justice, a prerequisite for increased labour productivity. I'm pleased to report that the resolutions of that convention and Expo have played a catalytic role in shaping the ministry's policy direction, legal reforms, and programmatic interventions, as has been highlighted by Alex. Key among the outcomes was the increased effort to protect the most vulnerable workers, especially those in the informal economy, women and youth, in the development of access to justice mechanisms. As a result, the ministry, in collaboration with its stakeholders, has taken deliberate steps to strengthen labor inspection, promote alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, and double down on capacity building of stakeholders on issues such as social security and violence and harassment in the world of work that mostly affect these vulnerable groups of workers. A key recommendation from last year's convention and Expo was to digitize labor administration in line with global trends of digitization, as well as Uganda's digital transformation roadmap. Since then, the ministry embarked on the development of a labor market information system, which is an institutional arrangement that will coordinate the collection, processing, storage, retrieval, and dissemination of labor market information. We have also operationalized the digital job matching system that provides a platform for job seekers to have real-time knowledge of and access to information on employment opportunities. These two key deliverables are going to be launched in Nakapiripirit on International Labour Day a week or so from now. Furthermore, these efforts have influenced ongoing amendments to labor laws, the review and development of regulations and policies, and the alignment of budgetary allocations with access to justice under the upcoming NDP4. The recommendations also guided capacity building programs for labor officers, promoted the decentralization of labor justice services, and elevated the discourse on workplace conditions to the national level. This positive momentum now forms the foundation upon which this year's convention is being held. I wish to let all of you know that the main objective of this year's convention and expo is to foster a deeper understanding of the existing labor law framework while exploring practical solutions for strengthening compliance across all sectors of the economy. The focus is indeed on key areas, including the enforcement of labor laws and standards, promotion of alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, the role of inspection and social dialogue, non-discrimination of vulnerable groups like refugees from the labor market, and strategies for addressing casualization and other workplace violations. Furthermore, this platform also provides space for reviewing implementation progress under the National Development Plan 3 and assessing alignment with Uganda's international obligations. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, it is our hope that the insights and recommendations generated from this convention will continuously inform future policy and legislative reforms, strengthen institutional capacity, and galvanize collective action towards the realization of decent work for all Ugandans. Once again, I welcome all of you to this third annual Labour Convention and Expo and wish you very fruitful deliberations. I thank you for your kind attention.
Dr. Agre David Kibenge, I was praying for you when you were going through various forms of the pronunciation of one of the places in Karamoja. And I was hoping that the minister will miss that and take no offense. But finally you got there. Better late than never, they do say. I used to meet Dr. Kibenge quite often during COVID-19 when we were holding conference after conference as the rest of the world was at home. But since then, God has been good. You know, you have grown through various levels of labor provision when you no longer meet small people very easily. I thank God that now seeing you is a little harder than then. It also means that your labor looks very nice in the bank, and that is always a very good thing. I'd like to invite Mr. Segawa, who is a lawyer. They are good people, all right? Amen? Yes, lawyers are very good people. Mr. Segawa is a partner with S&L, and he's here to represent Mr. Barnabas Tumusingize, managing partner S&L, who is on a very different assignment. I'd like to ask the rest of you coming that since our host has established protocol, we may not have to repeat it, just stand on it and then proceed. Mr. Segawa, you are more than welcome. If you may, the abridged version as you make your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Kasumba. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As I've been guided, I should stand on the protocol that has been laid, although I will acknowledge the Minister of State in my remarks. Just your presence is indeed moving to be speaking before you. Ladies and gentlemen, I am speaking here not on my own behalf, but on behalf of my managing partner, Mr. Barnabas Tumusingize, who unfortunately was not able to make it today because he's attending the funeral service of his dear friend, retired Major Kazora. So allow me to present his remarks to you. On behalf of SNL Advocates, it is both an honor and a privilege to welcome you all to the third Annual National Labor Convention and Expo 2025. We are honored to collaborate in hosting this event with the Ministry of Gender, Labor, and Social Development, and to stand amongst such esteemed guests, all united by a shared mission to advance the dignity of work and deepen compliance with labor laws and foster inclusive growth and development. Over the past 3 years, this convention has evolved into Uganda's premier platform for dialogue on labor, employment, and the future of work. And rightly so, because the issues we are gathered to address touch every household and every business and sector in this economy. I'm not sure there's any sector that does not interact with labor. So today, as we usher in the third edition of this convention, we do so against the backdrop of rapid and dynamic transformation in all aspects of life, both economic, technological, and social. So as a country, as we witness a demographic revolution, seeing that over 78% of our population is under the age of 35, our youth, who we can fairly say have potential, but are facing serious challenges of unemployment and underemployment. At the same time, the world is increasingly being shaped by modern technologies, artificial intelligence, automation, remote work, and the gig economy. These trends are redefining what it means to be employed, to manage labor, and to enforce labor rights. While these shifts open up exciting opportunities, they also pose serious challenges to compliance and accountability and social justice. It is in this complex landscape that the theme of this year's convention, strengthening compliance to employment law, a prerequisite for decent jobs, economic empowerment, and inclusive growth, takes its full weight. It captures a fundamental truth that without legal compliance, there can be no sustainable development. As SNL, we believe that compliance is not a burden, but rather a strategic advantage that fosters business continuity. It builds investor confidence, and it nurtures employee loyalty and enhances economic development overall. Therefore, as we begin this two-day convention, I invite us all to embrace employment law compliance, not just as a checklist, but as a broad strategy to achieve a shared prosperity. As we use this platform to interrogate challenges and problems, both from a policy and a legislative standpoint, we hope that we can come up with solutions that will make a difference to all Ugandans. Thank you for listening to me. Mr. Kasumba, I hope I have delivered in terms of abridgment.
You know, a lawyer has done well when they make a subtle note of the fact that they have. You have exceeded even your own expectations. I'd like to make mention of that. Thank you very much. And you have set the pace for the presentations after you. It's going to be exactly that way. I'd like to call, I think if this is an English word, the next presentation is going to be even briefer because it's going to be made by a politician. You see what I did there? The Honorable Dr. Sam Liomoki, Secretary General, Central Organization for Free Trade Unions, is speaking next. And I don't know anybody more briefer than Dog. Did I just throw you under the bus?
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, my brother. All protocol observed as guided, and but specifically the Honorable Minister of State for Labor and the Justices of the Industrial Court, and all of you, my brothers and sisters in the labor movement. First of all, we greet you on behalf of the workers on whose behalf I'm making this statement. Solidarity. Solidarity. It is my honor to stand here before you on behalf of the workers to make a statement to this annual national convention. Firstly, to thank all of you for coming and also for continuing with this tempo to establish this dialogue for which we as workers can be able to state our issues. The theme for this convention is strengthening compliance to employment law, a prerequisite for decent jobs, economic empowerment, and inclusive growth. I indeed agree with that theme, and I would want, on behalf of the workers, to state three imperatives arising from that theme and also our strategic interventions as workers and as labor in development. Brothers, sisters, in the world of work, we have a strategic mandate to be the motive force for social transformation. And as workers leaders, we have been working on trying to make sure that we improve productivity and service delivery. And therefore, we note that the theme for this convention that relates to improving compliance, improving labor is useful, and we therefore want to associate ourselves with this forum, even as it continues. In that regard, the first critical imperative has been for us as labor unions to reinforce that mandate, and we have a fully-fledged legal aid for workers that does a lot of activities in that area or in that space, including representation of workers and many other things that, as you know, legal aid clinics do. The full spectrum of those activities. And that is critical because we know that labor unions and their organizations and the members and the leaders and even the workers are useful if they were able to do and follow labor standards. And we have also established that observance of labor standards is critical for development. It's no longer a rights issue as it used to be thought in the past. It's now a development issue. And that brings me to the second imperative that I want to leave to this gathering, this honorable gathering, that it's critical for us to recognize that organized labor is useful for development. Because as you saw from the statistics that we have seen and also that we know, in terms of the status of labor, in terms of the mindset of our workers, we need to have an impetus in which we mobilize these members so that they can be able to participate in development and also be able to resolve all the contradictions that relate or that arise within the distortions in the capital and labor markets in Uganda, as you know. I don't want to go into those details because they have been well elaborated, and also you know the version of the speech which will be posted on our website as COF2, the whole version will be able to read and be able to understand. And therefore, labor unions are able to organize so that through organized labor, we can be able to better productivity, we can be able to use education to our members, we can be able to reform worker culture, enhance skills, improve industrial relations, better services, and empower the workers in terms of their competences, in terms of their other faculties and tenets that are useful for development. And the last imperative as I wind up, as I end, is that labor standards are positive ingredients in economic development. And we have done several researches, even in all our speeches that we have given in the International Labor Day. We have analyzed and underscored this important factor because we used to have an old thinking that if you have a poorly paid labor, low salaries, low wages, then you can be able to attract development. And that thinking has long been dismantled. And therefore, but we still have a hangover in that area. And therefore, we always want, in occasions of this nature, to emphasize that so that we can be able to tap labor for development and be able to recognize that decent labor, decent jobs are a prerequisite for development. I want to end by inviting all of you again to Nakapiripirit. I think I'm able to mention it very well. On the Labor Day, on the 4th, on the 1st May, that's the other Thursday. And we are going to have a lot of other activities on the ground in Nakapiripirit, working with the workers in that place and all the neighboring districts so that we can be part of that Labor Day, even in that place, because this is part of a process, or part of the activities or events leading to that Labor Day. Thank you very much for listening to me, for God and my country. Solidarity forever.
Doctor, thank you very much. You've done us very well. And I think now the pace has been set. And next is going to be Mr. Douglas Opio, the Chief Executive Officer, Federation of Uganda Employers. He's also coming to use 3 minutes.
Thank you so much, moderator. Allow me then to stand on the established protocol, but in particular I want to recognize the Honorable Minister and our justices of the Industrial Court, plus my sister from Dar es Salaam, the Director ILO. As you already know, the workers do 5%, we do 10%. This is contribution. So I will do 6 imperatives, not 3. First, it's just to say we state our belief. The MC spoke about belief. We believe very firmly at the Federation of Uganda Employers that compliance basically is the bedrock for decent work. Without compliance, you can't talk about decent work. First imperative now. Compliance is directly linked to productivity. So there is a direct correlation between compliance and labor productivity. In an environment where workers are not treated well, do not expect productivity. Secondly, is that strong compliance drives economic empowerment. Decent wages implies also that the purchasing power parity, the capacity of the economy to function well, for employers to have a market is enhanced. Thirdly, the consistent application of the law promotes inclusive growth. It means no one then is left behind. The fourth point, collaboration and dialogue. Within the ILO, we believe in dialogue. Collaboration and dialogue is extremely important for effective compliance. You cannot do that alone, but when we work together, it's possible. Now, on that note, very welcome, Honorable Minister. Maybe I give the MC to formally, or I continue with the speech? Continue, thank you. Honorable Minister, you're very welcome. I'll give you a moment to take your seat. Honorable Ministers, you're very welcome, and you arrive at the right note when I now wanted to thank the ministry. I want to thank the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, first for the quality of engagement. Over time, the quality of our engagement in the labor space, in fact, even this kind of conference wasn't there. This is the third one. The quality of engagement has improved significantly, but also the frequency of those engagements. We engage a lot more frequently, but we also engage at a higher level as well. The third point where I want to thank the ministry is the positioning of labor and employment. In the past, labor and employment was not heard in the budget discussions. But if you see it consistently in the national development plans, the theme is always around job creation. And consistently, when you see the national budget processes, consistently matters labor is stated as a driver of our national agenda. So I appreciate the ministry for that. Secondly, I want to thank the industrial court. In the absence of the industrial court, the situation was, I should say, pathetic. Pathetic. Even from the employer side, the consciousness of complying with the law was very minimal. And if you look at the trends then, a lot of the cases were being lost by employers. Why? Because they simply didn't care. But that trend has changed. You don't have as many employers struggling to comply as it was the case in the past. This is because we have a functional industrial court. And that is accelerating the pace of compliance. So I thank you so much for that. Thirdly, I want to thank the ILO for your support. Technical support, financial support, all manner of support I can't even mention. As constituents, we are where we are because we receive proper support from you. The sixth imperative, my brother, on my side, is that we are looking forward to signing an MOU with the workers' colleagues on the Labor Day, so that we can drive this agenda together. We are in it together to foster compliance, to enhance productivity, to ensure there's decent work. And with that said, thank you so much, everyone, and God bless you. Thank you, sir.
The Right Honorable Prime Minister, you are very welcome. Honorable Minister, you are very welcome as well. My mother insists, and has always insisted, that her deputy MD should be addressed as MD. So that is why I'm saying Right Honorable Prime Minister. The rest we can deal with later. Thank you so much for making time for this particular event. Naomba kukaribisha my sister, Miss Caroline or Caroline going to be showing off then, so let me just use this. So I'd like to make welcome my sister Caroline or Caroline, depending on whether one started in nursery school or kindergarten. She's the country director, International Labour Organization, and she is based in the very beautiful Dar es Salaam. Please, because of where she is coming from and how far she has traveled, put your hands together to make her welcome to Uganda. I'm not so sure whether it is me to say shikamo or it is you, but we shall resolve that during the break.
Ni mimi kukuambia shikamo. Asante. Honorable Minister Betty, Minister for Gender, Labor and Social Development, and our Honorable Minister of State for Labor, Employment and Industrial Relations, Honorable Esther Davina. Sorry. It's called technology. Muniwe radhi. Thank you. Standing on protocol laid before, I come from the neighbor. I actually come from Western Kenya. And during the break, I have a really beautiful story about this country, Uganda. I nearly became a nun in Uganda. Little Sisters of St. Francis of Assisi, somewhere in a convent in Barara. So you can see me during break to tell you how that went. But also, I have an in-law. The Labor Commissioner is also my in-law. But also one of my mentors is Dr. Egulu. So Uganda for me is home. I'm a Luya, I come from Kakamega, and so it's always a pleasure to be at home in Uganda. Before I proceed, I would like to convey a message from our regional director who was invited, Ms. Fan Fan. She deeply regrets being unable to join us today due to circumstances that were beyond her control, but she sends her warmest regard. This gathering is not just a date on the calendar, it is a shared opportunity, a moment to reflect, to learn, and most importantly, to collaborate. We come together around a common purpose, a future where work is fair, inclusive, and dignified for all. This year's theme is both timely and essential. And looking at the presentation that the Commissioner made in the morning, strengthening compliance with employment law, a prerequisite for decent work, economic empowerment, and inclusive growth. Employment laws are more than written statutes. They are the backbone of a just labor market. They protect workers' rights and provide clarity and consistency for employers. When labor laws are upheld, and we've heard from the previous speakers, trust is built, stability is strengthened, prosperity is shared. Not by a few, but by all. Compliance, as the MC has said, is not a burden. It's a bridge to stronger economies and empowered society. Therefore, decent work is not a privilege to be granted. It is a right to be guaranteed. It means fair wages, safe working conditions, social protection, and respect for workers' voice. Enforcing labor law is key to unlocking economic empowerment. It reduces exploitation, enhances productivity, and lays the foundation to sustainable growth. Achieving this vision requires all of us, and everyone who stood before this podium, Honorable Minister, has alluded to this. Governments must lead with strong legal frameworks and effective enforcement. PS stressed on this. Employers must embrace compliance as businesses assert, and not merely as an asset, not merely an obligation. FUE has stressed on this, and Honorable Luomoki has talked about trade unions and workers must remain informed, vigilant, and actively engaged. When each of us does their part, the system works, and when we work together, we accelerate progress. At the International Labour Organization, we are proud to support Uganda in this mission. I will just mention a few examples. We are helping digitalize the industrial court, making labor dispute resolution faster, more transparent, and fairer. I'm particularly proud to hear the development on labor inspectors in Uganda having the possibility to prosecute cases around child labor. This is not just a milestone, it is a best practice that I will proudly share elsewhere. Through the initiatives of projects like Prospects, we are improving access to labor market and raising awareness of workers' rights, especially among young people and refugees. We've seen the figures on the NEET, not in education, employment, or training. Let us be honest, the cost of non-compliance is very high. We've seen the numbers of the children in child labor. It results in unsafe working places, worker exploitation, and deepening inequality. For businesses, it leads to lost productivity, higher staff turnover, and damaged reputation. Therefore, we cannot afford that, not as individuals, and certainly not as Uganda. But there is hope. The MC Honorable Minister says we have to only talk about the positives. Technology can transform how we monitor, report, and enforce labor laws. Training for inspectors must be continuous because the labor market is changing rapidly. Digital platforms can empower workers by making their rights clear and accessible. Let us innovate for compliance, not just for convenience. And we were having a chat with the honorable judges on this. Platform work, artificial intelligence, and health and safety at work. We must prepare for the future of work. This year's World Day for Safety and Health at Work carries the theme, for those who don't know, the day is on 28th April, revolutionizing health and safety, the role of artificial intelligence and digitalization at work. The labor market is evolving rapidly. Platform work and artificial intelligence-driven jobs are on the rise. Through the ILO gig work pilot, over 200 youth in Kampala and Nakivale have been trained and linked to real opportunities. And I hope you'll be able to join us this Friday, where we'll share the results, successes, and lessons learned. Yet with opportunity comes responsibility. Platform work offers flexibility, but often lacks protections. Artificial intelligence must serve to assist, not to replace, certainly exploit human labor. We need to look forward. We need forward-looking regulations to ensure fairness and dignity in all forms of work. And I hope to see the Ugandan delegation participate effectively in the standing setting discussions in June at the International Labour Convention this year. But Honorable Minister, I also had an opportunity to share a platform with you a few weeks ago when Uganda had the honor of hosting the 11th session of the African Regional Forum on Sustainable Development. You shared very rich initiatives that the ministry and the government of Uganda are doing, reflecting on the powerful theme of the 11th session, reinforcing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and Agenda 2063 at the midpoint towards 2030. The forum brought together African government, UN agencies, civil society, the youth private sector leader, and they all focused on accelerating progress towards sustainable development goals. A key takeaway was renewed emphasis on SDG 8, which is on decent work and economic growth, and its connection to broader development goals such as poverty eradication, gender equality, education, and climate action. Uganda's leadership in hosting the forum signaled a bold commitment to inclusive development and a future where no one is left behind. Our work here today, strengthening compliance with employment law, is a direct contribution to this regional agenda. The ILO, on the other hand, has launched the Global Coalition for Social Justice, a bold and inclusive alliance uniting governments, employers, workers, partners to accelerate progress on fairness, rights, and dignity in the world of work. And I would like to extend the invitation on the ministry to join the coalition. By championing employment law compliance, Uganda is helping shape the future where social justice is not just a goal, but a reality. The ILO remains fully committed to supporting Uganda on this journey, because when rights are respected, laws are upheld, and opportunity are shared, we don't just build better workplaces, we build a stronger nation and a better world. Thank you.
I do not want to speculate over your reasons for losing interest in being a nun. I don't know whether they have anything to do with the word labor. But the good thing is, you are still involved in labor. Talking labor, I have ever been to a labor ward. And when I left the labor ward, I left with the ability to advise that anyone who wants to escort their wife to a labor ward must check their nails properly before they escort them there, because most of my body was bruised when I left. So for those of you watching on TV, the labor convention we are having is not that one. It is of a very, very different nature. The next speaker, by the way, for some reason, a lot of people think I look like somebody who would look very nice as a minister. But that's where it stops. I think God is also fair that I have the responsibility to invite ministers. So I will invite the one minister I will invite today, and from after her speech, she will become the MC to invite another one, who will also become the MC to invite the chief guest. So we are going to distribute this MC role from now on. The next speaker is a procurement and logistics professional who is also with interests in social work and social administration. She comes from the part of Uganda where you have exotic names. You see, there are places in Uganda where you can be named Enakuteba Yomu, and you wonder how that name inspires a child. It literally translates that poverty is spread out equitably. The Honorable Esther Davinia Anyakun is the State Minister for Labor and Employment and Industrial Relations for now. Only God knows what will be happening in 2026. But if I am right, she might be the tallest member of cabinet for now as well.
No, I'm just alone. Thank you very much, Kasumba. When I entered here, I told my commissioner, you chose the best MC. Right Honorable Third Deputy Prime Minister, my Senior Minister for Gender, Labour and Social Development, Honorable Judges of the Industrial Court, Honorable Members of Parliament who are here, Permanent Secretary, Director of ILO, Karibu to Uganda, the Secretary Generals, my teams. I call them my teams because I've always been in the field with them. I'm sure you've been seeing this. The Secretary General, National Organization for Trade Unions, Executive Director, Federation of Uganda Employers, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to stand before you as we all convene here for this third annual National Labour Convention, an expo under the theme Strengthening Compliance of Employment Law, which is a prerequisite for decent jobs, economic empowerment, and inclusive growth. I wish to note that the convention comes with at the critical time when Uganda is striving to harness a human capital potential to meet the aspiration of our Vision 2040. More so, as we transition into the knowledge and skill-based economy, the role of productivity, decent, inclusive employment cannot be overstated. The event further underscores the ministry's commitment to creating platforms for open dialogue and partnership in promoting decent work, safeguarding workers' rights, and enhancing labor productivity across sectors. It's though convenient like this that we will we will build consensus around policies, strategies that align the national development priorities. While responding to challenges of the world of work, such as technological disruption, unemployment of the youth, casualization of labor, and labor migration. Esteemed guests, the convention is more than an annual event. It serves as the important opportunity to deepen our understanding of the human capital and how to effectively utilize for economic and social benefit. It brings together diverse voices and ideas that are shaping the future of the worker in Uganda. It allows us also to influence the policies that govern our labor market. The discussions and panels here will be provided and provide insights that can guide the reforms and interventions to make more inclusive and effective. Additionally, this convention promotes open communication and accountability among key stakeholders in the labor market, including the government, private sector, employers, job seekers, innovators, investors, etc. It is a platform for collaboration as we recognize the genuine chances. Change in the world of work rallies in a strong partnership. Through this expo, we shall also be witnessing innovation of actions, creativity, resilience of Ugandans, business showcasing, products, services, and technologies that are improving productivity, enhancing safety, and creating decent jobs. In line with this year's theme, the event offers a very unique opportunity to reflect on the progress we have made, the challenges we have faced, the paths forwarded. It allows us also to engage with employers, workers, enforcement agencies to strengthen awareness, build the capacity, and explore practical strategies to improve compliance. When the labor laws are respected, when the rights are respected, are protected, and obligations are clear, everyone benefits from it. Business thrives, workers are empowered, and the economy becomes more resilient. As I conclude, I want to emphasize on what my peers said to allow me to extend my deepest gratitude to the teams of sponsors and partners who supported this convention. In particular, I want to mention a few: ILO, Enabel, SNL, MTN, DFCU, Civil Aviation, National, that is NSSF, and then the recruitment, Uganda Retirement Benefit Regulatory Authority. We thank you as the ministry. As the government, reaffirm our commitment in implementing policies, framework to promote decent work, and also sustainable livelihoods. The ministry will continue to strengthen the legal frameworks, enhance labor inspection, enforcement, and also promote social dialogue as key pillars of just equitable world for work. I urge all of you to actively engage, share the knowledge, and also build synergies that will translate into real, tangible progresses for workers and our nation. At this juncture, I have a distinct honor to invite my senior minister, Minister of Gender, Labor, and Social Development, Honorable Amongi Ongom, to make our remarks and lead us into the official opening of the convention. Minister, you're most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. The Right Honorable Third Deputy Prime Minister and Minister without portfolio, who is here to represent the Prime Minister, the Minister of State for Labor, Industrial Relations, and Employment. I see here someone has written a speech and put Industrial Relations and Productivity. That must be Alex, because Alex is always, his department is for productivity. So he has decided to change the title of the minister to be only for his department. Imagine. Alex. Our honorable judges of the Industrial Court, our members of parliament, and the ILO that are here represented, the permanent secretaries, all of you, the two secretary generals, and I see also, I think, a chairperson of one of the federation. Both are here. Let us see you. Both chairpersons. These are powerful people in the world of labor. And the two secretary generals, let us also see you. Do you know the other time they almost chased me from Geneva because of a secretary general of a federation. So I don't take them for granted, my dear. For a minister to be served to leave an international conference because the Secretary General is having some issues. So now I have to be very careful. I'm now massaging him to say, please, we are going to Geneva. Let us talk from here before. Our ED for Federation of Employers, thank you, Douglas, for the work that you do for us, and distinguished participants. I am honored to be part of you today, and I want to really thank you for this turn-up. This is a big turn-up. It is more than last year. So I am very proud that this convention is growing every year into a very important forum where we discuss issues to do with labor. And our theme for this year, strengthening compliance to employment law. This calls on each one of us, because strengthening compliance cannot only be left to government and the ministry. That is why in all labor issues, they tell us it's a tripartite, that you must have government, you must have employers, you must have employees. It means we can have very beautiful laws, but if we don't together enforce the law, if we don't have cooperation from employers, and many times when we go to industrial parks or to workplaces, it is you, the employers, who we give more burden to make the workplace provide a decent environment for productive employment. And so the employers are very important. The employees also to be skilled. Many times some of these people, especially the investors, when you go to their place and you ask, why are we seeing many people who are not Ugandans doing work in your factories? Then they will tell us the skills that Ugandans have sometimes does not match the job. And I'm glad His Excellency the President has picked this one. And in the NDP 4, the issue of skilling and skills that match the job is now a priority. And we are going to partner with the employers so that you give us key skills on top of being a graduate. What other key skills do you need as an employee to be able, so that the new law, the new Employment Amendment Act, is now saying the minister can issue guidelines on jobs that should not be taken by foreigners. Which jobs can be reserved for Ugandans only is now coming. It's now in the new amendment. And I want to thank the Workers MP, Margaret. You stand up. This lady has pushed that many bill as private members bill. You, the workers, she's very quiet, very humble, but vicious. So sometimes you see people until you meet them in the corridor of parliament and giving you headache as a minister. And you have to move up and down and have to negotiate with her, please, please, this one, please. But the workers' members of parliament have been able to support us on many amendments. And really, we know that employment is very critical very critical for each one of us. I think we also now have other intervention in the ministry, in the department, within the context of decent employment, capacity building, training, building experience through the new programs that has been approved by cabinet. So really, I want to thank His Excellency the President, who remains deeply committed and is always guiding us as a ministry. As you are aware, labor is one of the critical factors of production. These days when I move and I see people, I was telling His Excellency one time that most of these youth who finished education, and how many universities might we have now? Both private, maybe over 30 universities. Most of these youth who come out of these universities will not go for agriculture. You'll find them on TikTok and they are making money. You find them on Facebook, they are making money. For us who are politicians on WhatsApp now, they have turned themselves into something called WhatsApp administrators. Are you people not on WhatsApp? So they have started advertising to politicians. If you want me to market you, I have a WhatsApp with this number of people. And politicians are paying because you want your message to go. They are sending and you pay them 100,000. If 10 members of parliament or aspirants in a day paid 100 for that person to circulate your profile to the social media, that person has earned more than you who is in office, because they are going to earn 1 million per day. In 30 days, they have earned 30 million. Not so. Have you ever thought about that? So we need to look at employment broadly. The online employment is now generating a lot of money, and I looked at most of the youth are really online employment. So as a ministry, we have focused on the legal framework. We have the Employment Act, Labor Unions Act, Occupational Safety and Health Act, which was passed recently, Workers' Compensation Act, and this one really I need the implementation, the strengthening of compliance. The number of people who come to my office, and I'm sure to the Department of Labor, talking about employers not compensating them when they get injured. This is a crisis. Some of them will give you not even a half of what you are supposed to get. So we need to, employers, we need to engage more. Douglas, we need to engage more on the issue of compensation for people who get injured at work. If you can please work closely with the ministry and the trade union people. There are so many people who are being abused because they are powerless and the employer is too powerful and they are not compensating, and yet we have the Act. We also have the National Social Security Fund Act and the subsidiary regulations. So these laws are critical for us to ensure that workers' rights are protected, respected, so that they become productive and decent work accomplished. The other critical area that we have focused on is the labor officers, because most of the work cannot be done at the center, but at the local government level. So we are building the capacity of labor officers, and where there are no labor officers, we are requesting the local governments to assign an officer who can be trained as a labor officer, so that we can build their capacity and finance them for compliance, enforcement, monitoring, and ensuring that they investigate complaints. Because now the law, the first court of instance is with the labor officers. You can't you can't go to her in the industrial court before you lodge your complaint to the labor officer. So this is a very important area, and also their role to inspect workplaces and settle disputes, which is very critical. Issues of wages, occupational injuries and diseases and all that, labor officers are very critical. Even with NSSF now, they are working to ensure that labor officers support them in the new mandate of voluntary, because now the mandate has been expanded that you can voluntarily save, but also anybody employing one person and above should now pay NSSF. It used to be 5 and above, and people were really dodging. They would say, I have 3 workers and 2 volunteers, or 2 volunteers and 3 workers. So you go into a place, why are you not paying NSSF? No, I have two permanent employees and the rest are volunteers. But now the law has opened up, which is very important. So in other words, this convention is very critical for us to evaluate ourselves, but also for you to tell us. We bring you for you to tell us and say, you Ministry of Gender, this is where you are weak, improve here. So don't fear to tell us where we are and where you feel we have done inadequately and where you want us to improve. If it's within our capacity, the resolution and the issues you raise here supports us to improve better. So I do not want to talk so much. I want to thank the technical team, headed by the PS, Mr. Agri Chibenge. Can you get up with the commissioner? With Commissioner Alex and your team? You know, I always tell people, for us, we are paid to talk. The more I talk, the more I get paid. For them, they are paid to make sure that I talk. So if I'm talking there, if I talk well here, then they are doing for me the work to come and talk. But if I don't talk well, don't blame them. Because they can give me very good points. If I fail to deliver it, don't blame them. It's my incapacity. So I want to thank the PS and the team for always being there, and really thank the President for the policies to create more jobs. Because we cannot talk about decent work when the job is not created. So the macroeconomic policies that Uganda has put in place continues to increase jobs for youth. However, we also know that in some circumstances, the number of youth we are producing in the job market is approximately 500,000. Those 700 now, those coming into the job market. And you people have decided to produce more and more, and those between 18 years to 35 years are now about 30% of the total population. So to get decent jobs for all the 30% of the population requires all of us to work hard to create these jobs. And the private sector is the biggest engine of job creation. So I want to let's thank the private sector that continues to create for us jobs. When I go into the other day, I was in this graphics. It's just, in my mind, they were just an advertising company. When I visited their factory, I found they are doing tailoring, they are doing all sorts of things. Almost all the packaging and the branding in Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya is coming from graphics. And the number of people being employed in one company, then I said, we must visit these companies for us to know our country. Very important. So the private sector continues to play a great role in creating. We will continue to engage you so that we achieve the aspiration of decent work for all. With that, I want to now take the opportunity and thank the Right Honorable Prime Minister for coming to grace this occasion, and now invite her to come and graciously give a speech and open officially this wonderful annual National Labor Convention and Expo.
Thank you. I want to thank you, the Honorable Minister, my sister, Honorable Betty, Honorable Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development, the Honorable Minister of Labor, Employment and Industrial Relations, Honorable Judges of the Industrial Court, Honorable Members of Parliament representing workers, the Permanent Secretaries, the Director of the ILO Country Office for the United Republic of Tanzania, Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda, and the ESC. Representatives of development partners present, the Secretary General, Central Organization of Free Trade Union, COFTU, the Secretary General of the NOTU, Executive Director, Federation of Uganda Employers, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. I think the protocol is big. Morning, everybody. Let me hope it's still morning. Are you sure? It is with great pleasure that I join you this morning at the third annual National Labor Convention and Expo 2025, held under the theme Strengthening Compliance to Employment Law, a prerequisite for decent jobs, economic empowerment, and inclusive growth. I'm called Nakadama Rukia Isanga. I'm the third Deputy Prime Minister and Minister without portfolio. The Prime Minister was supposed to be here today, but because of other state duties, she's with you spiritually, but physically it is me now. Now that we are talking about that theme of economic empowerment and inclusive growth, I want to commend the Honorable Minister Betty Angom, who is the Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development, and your team for the leadership in convening this important platform for dialogue, reflection, and collective action on strengthening compliance to employment law. Reflecting on the theme, I'm reminded of the formidable challenges faced by Uganda's labor force when the NRM government assumed leadership in 1986. At that time, labor force numbered about 6.49 million, with agriculture employing 68% of the workforce, equivalent to 4.4 million people. That is according to our survey 2002-2003. Other significant sectors, including manufacturing, accounted for 5.9%. Sales and repair services, it was 11.2%. Education, 2.8%, with additional contributions from sectors like hotels and restaurants, which was 2.3%. Fishing was 0.8%. Mining and quarrying, 0.3%, among others. That was the trend. During that time, many workers had also been laid off or made redundant by factories, and numerous public and private enterprises were operating way below capacity or had shut down. As a result, our labor force was making very limited contributions to productivity and overall economic performance, which was reflected by a miserable gross domestic product of $1.5 billion. In response, the NRM government made deliberate investments in job creation, wealth generation, and poverty eradication. Today, we have witnessed remarkable progress across various sectors. Our combined electricity generation has increased significantly from 60 megawatts in 1986 to 1,365.7 megawatts as of June 2022, with the surplus electricity now available. We have also made significant strides in transport infrastructure development. The length of paved roads has increased from 1,000 kilometers in 1986 to 6,133 kilometers. That was June 2023. In the health sector, we have implemented a decentralized healthcare system whereby health services are delivered within 7 tiers. From the village health teams, we have Health Center 2, Health Center 3, Health Center 4, we have the district hospital, we have regional hospitals, up to the national referral hospitals. Because of our foresight and commitment, the economy has expanded more than 10 times, with the GDP growing to more than $50 billion. That was in 2023, 2024. And exports to over $6 billion from $411 million. That was in 1986. We now have a health productive nation with life expectancy have increased from 43 in 1986 to 67 in 2022-2023, and adult rates from 58% in 1986 to 76% 2022-2023. I think now people are enjoying seeing their grants. We used not to see them at that age. And I've heard many of them saying we should decrease the age of when you give them the money, that is the retirement money, Honorable Minister, the SAGE money, yes. They are saying you should put it lower because people are staying more years. So they are seeing a big number of them not getting, because, you know, now they have added on the years. These and other achievements in security, education, regional integration, ICT, and foreign policy have laid a firm foundation for economic transformation. The structure of the economy has changed from the one which is dominated by agriculture to the one dominated by services, which is 50.3%, followed by industry, which is 26.1%, and agriculture, forestry and fisheries, 24%. There has been a reduction in households dependent on subsistence farming from 69% in 1991 to 33.1% in 2024. Our next national goal is ambitious, yet achievable. Growing Uganda's economy from $50 billion to $500 billion in the next decade. I think even if we have not yet, we can clap for that. Because we are saying it is achievable. We know we can make it. Our technocrats are developing a comprehensive roadmap to this end. If countries in Asia have achieved it, then why not Uganda? So if we don't clap for them, you know, they say now they are not believing in us. So we have to give them that courage that we know is going to be done. Achieving this target requires unlocking millions of decent and productive jobs for our people, grounded in strengthening compliance to employment law, equity, and social protection. As we deliberate today, I urge all stakeholders to recognize the critical importance of employment law compliance. It is not merely a legal requirement, it is an enabler of decent work, a driver of inclusive growth, and a safeguard for both employers and employees. Employment law encompasses a broad spectrum: fair remuneration, occupational safety, anti-discrimination policies, and more. These laws ensure dignity for workers and foster sustainable and equitable workplaces. The cost of non-compliance is high. Reputational harm, penalties, and possible business closure. Thus, adherence to labor laws strengthens institutional trust, operational resiliency, and long-term growth. I acknowledge that the evolving legal landscape can present challenges. Laws may be sometimes difficult to interpret and adequately communicated. That is why, at a global scale, countries like the United Kingdom have introduced flexible, fair, and dignified workplace forms, including the adoption of workforce management systems and digital tools to aid compliance. Under the leadership of His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the NRM government remains steadfast in advancing decent work for all Ugandans. I call upon all employers to take proactive measures, including training human resource and management teams to understand and implement legal requirements, clearly communicate employee rights and responsibilities, conduct regular compliance reviews, and maintain robust documentation systems, among others. I wish also to commend the critical role of Central Organization of Free Trade Unions, that's COFTU, and the National Organizations of Trade Unions, as well as the Federation of Uganda Employers. Your partnership is instrumental in ensuring industrial harmony and advancing the decent work agenda. As I conclude, I reaffirm the government's full commitment to strengthening institutions of work and justice, enhancing employment, law enforcement, and expanding economic opportunities for all Ugandans. Let this convention not simply be an event, but a call to action, a rallying point for all stakeholders to champion compliance, protect workers' rights, and shape a prosperous and inclusive Uganda. I thank you all, and now I take this opportunity to declare the third Annual National Labour Convention and Expo 2025 officially opened. I thank you for God and my country.
Give the chief guest another hand clap. The only thing I have ever opened in life, maybe two, is a door and a bottle. I haven't been lucky to open anything else of substance. So those of you, honorable ministers, commissioners, permanent secretary, right honorable prime minister, you should thank God that you open big things. For us, we are opening small ones and very proud of doing so. Ladies and gentlemen, we beg your indulgence. For reasons I will not make known, our chief guest intends to leave in haste. And that will mean that the presentations that were meant for earlier will have to be postponed because she has to leave and she has to go down to the exhibition. So we will let this moment be used for us to go down with the chief guest to the exhibition. We finish that assignment, come back, then finish the morning business. But whilst at that, you can feel free to catch some tea. The question then will be how close that tea will be to the lunch. But that's a matter to be solved at very individual level because of the different giftings of the Holy Spirit as far as human beings are concerned. I will not say more than that. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now heading down to the exhibition. But some of us already had used the candy on the table to suffice as breakfast, and we are still doing very well. to that end. Ladies and gentlemen, on a very serious note, we're now heading down to the exhibition. I'd like to thank the gentleman who has been offering music. Your choice of music has been a lot more mature than your years, and that sometimes usually happens. So keep within that direction. You have impressed those of us who had judged a cover by its book. Thank you a bunch. Please don't crowd the corridor until my lords, the judges, have also followed in that order.